Welcome to Powerboat1.com. Today we're going to take and put the front motor plate on this LS engine. We're going to put on the water crossover that runs with thermostat in it so we can get a little bit closer to getting this thing in the frame rails. Here's what the motor plates look like when you get them. They're raw aluminum. They actually have grooves cut in the backside for O-rings because that's how it's going to seal to the front of the block is with an O-ring. It's also tapped in here for an O-ring fitting too. If you don't want to run a thermostat system, you just want to run water in and out of it, you can do that as well. Here's what our finished piece looked like. If you're wondering what this coating is, it's a Cerakote, and this color is called Sniper Gray. It's a really durable coat. You can see how we had to modify this plate to fit into our application. We had to cut this corner off because our stringers are only 26 inches, and these are a little bit wide to sit down inside, and had to make a little alteration right here for a little bit of clearance too. So with any of these kits, this is something you'll have to do as well. Okay, let's grab our actual plates now. Set these aside. The kit from Hardened also comes with a couple little adapters. There's some various different fronts of engines on these LSs. You know, some of them are tapped in here, some of them have other bolt holes on it, so there might be some holes that you're not using in this. This particular one, we're going to have a back piece on these two that'll actually bolt up into the side of the block here. We've got these O-ring grooves in here. I've got a couple of O-rings that come in the kit. I got a little bit of light grease on them. They're just going to sit down inside. There are two different size O-rings. There's one that fits the round groove, then there's one that'll fit this square groove. If you get them mixed up, you'll know because the O-ring won't stay in place. Now we'll take and we'll set this up onto the front of the motor. Like that. We'll take this bolt, we'll run into the side here, kind of leaving the other stuff a little bit loose for now. We'll run that in. There's one in the side here we'll run into place. Okay, now that's kind of set in where we need it to be. Now on this one, we'll hold it up in place. And the bolt hole that's lining up on this one is this one right here. Still kind of leaving them a little bit loose because we'll have to move them around a touch. This is the Hardened crossover system here. It's used in this type of application when you're not running a raw water pump. So if you were running, you know, a jet drive or some other type of pump, runs a thermostat inside, water comes in, bypasses out of here into the top of the thermostat housing. The water out of the back of the thermostat housing here is going to run down into your exhaust and out. So it'll just kind of constantly be cycling water through. It's got a couple ports on the side of here. This one I've got plugged. This one we're going to run a -4 fitting out, and then we're going to run into the steam vent that comes off the cylinder head. So that way we can circulate the water out of the heads back through the system. Now we need to take and put our O-rings on this. It's the same as the other ones where we've got a smaller O-ring that'll fit in there, and then a larger O-ring that'll fit in our little square spot. Now that we've got our O-rings in, we'll take and we'll put it up onto the front of the motor, lining the holes up. We'll slide that in. Just kind of get the bolt started. May have to move it around just a little bit to get them to line up and seat in there. I'm going to keep a little bit of pressure on it to make sure that the O-rings actually stay in their grooves. We'll just kind of cinch. There we go. Okay, now we'll go and just put a little cinch onto the top of them to make them nice and tight. Doesn't have to be killer tight, being that it is just an O-ring. Now that's tight on there. Now we can come back and we can tighten our other bolts up that are on our motor plate here. These other holes that you see in the motor plate there, those are in case you want to run any kind of bulkhead fittings for oil or fuel or anything like that. We're not using them for anything in this application, but it does give you an opportunity to be able to run something through them if you'd like. On the front of this, where it has these T's, on the front side, we're going to run just some 1/2 inch by 5/8 fittings here. And I've clocked these so that they're going to match the hoses that we got. This is a hose that I just got at the auto parts store. Basically, it's off like a 06 Chevy truck or something. It was a single hose that was one piece like this that I just cut off to make two hoses that had 90s in it. because this is kind of a tough transition to make with just a standard 5/8 heater hose, and you really can't do it with push lock fittings or AN fittings because it's just a little too tight. So in the video, we'll show you what the part number was for this, so you'll be able to get this same type of hose. And it's just going to push on, and push on there, push on. So that'll give us a nice little transition of water. I said before, as the water comes in here, it can bypass up to the top of this for when the thermostat's closed. That way the engine can build temperature. Then once the engine builds its temperature, the thermostat will open, it'll stop bypassing, it'll close the little seat inside. Water will come out of here and it'll run down to the exhaust and out. For the exhaust side, we're going to run some XRP push lock fittings and just thread them into the top of this. And then we'll run a little 90 that'll come into here. And then when we get our hose done, it'll run nice and smooth down through here into the headers. Now the steam vent I was talking about, so a little -4 hose here, and I'm going to run it up behind the crossover there, and we'll thread it onto our little fitting here. And we'll come back and tighten that up, and then this will push onto our steam vent right there. That would pretty much be a finished front of the engine with the Hardened Marine front motor plates, the Hardened Marine crossover system with thermostat, hooking up our steam vent. All we need now is put our alternator on, get our wiring hooked up on the back of the alternator, and then we're ready to get this into the frame rails on our little display we're going to be using. Thanks for watching, Powerboat1.com.